What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into the Pestcast, episode 6. I'm your host, Gabe, with Pest Patrol. Today we're going to be discussing the state of the Rodent Market report, which was the Bell Labs sponsored little rodent mini magazine inside of the PCT Magazine that we get. And I wanted to walk through some of this. There's some interesting insights here for 2021. So they did a report on 2014 of the similar style, and then they just did one in 2021. And so they're kind of comparing and contrasting what's going on, particularly around kind of rodenticide use, rodent infestations, exclusion, that type of stuff. So let's jump right in here. I'm just going to kind of skip around and hopefully it won't make too much of a difference to you as a listener because I'm going to be just kind of talking through all this stuff. But so trend 1, they say rodents are increasingly problematic. Yeah, that's true. Interesting stats on kind of the most common pests. I mean, you know this textbook wise, but like hearing it from me here in Portland is interesting. So 76% of participants, had issues with house mice, 52% Norway rats, 44% roof rats, 25% deer mice, and on down the list. And before I get too far into this, here's just a quick summary about this survey. There was a sample of 4,074 pest control company owners, executives, and technical directors. They were systematically selected from the PCT database. Data was collected from only 182 of those respondents, which was a 4% response rate. So not a ton of businesses being represented, but I mean 182 is still quite a few. Interesting, but not like, I mean, the sample was 4,074, right? So you're getting a 4% response rate out of that. So I would say take this for what it's worth. It doesn't represent every single business in the country necessarily, but I think it's pretty insightful. So house mice were still the number one, but here's the weird thing for me, and we do a lot of rodent trapping, is that Norway rats and roof rats are by far more common for us here in Portland than house mice are. And I don't know if that's because of how much homelessness we have or because of if that's just a COVID oddity. But house mice jumped up 7% in the last 5 years. But of course, Norway rats and roof rats did as well. Norway rats were up 12%. Roof rats were up, 7%. Very, very interesting. Busiest season of the year, not surprising, is the fall time. But interestingly enough, the main one, the biggest proponent of people said no seasonal difference, right? And that's what we see as well with rodents. That went up from 21 to 34%, so a 13% increase saying no seasonal difference. And that swung from fall being the number one in 2014 to now there's no seasonal difference, which again, that's more in line with what we generally see. Trend number 3, protocols emphasize non-toxic rodent control methods. And this stuff is where we start getting into the interesting facts about rodenticide use. While most PMPs used multiple tools and services to control rodents, the primary method involved bait and then traps underneath that. Rodent baiting most often was performed, and hear this, most often was performed on both the interior and the exterior of buildings. Reported 59% of PMPs. So we got people baiting inside of homes, outside of homes, inside of buildings, outside of buildings. 59% of PMPs said most often was performed both. That's insane. Rodenticides are facing increased regulatory and consumer scrutiny. No kidding. PMPs in follow-up interviews said that a growing number of customers on the West Coast, yeah, I feel that, do not want toxicants used on their properties, and some even ask for rodents to be live trapped and relocated. got that call many times, and we always deny it, which it says PMPs have refused to do. Like, I would love to make a super expensive live trapping service, but so far I just don't have the patience for it, and I don't think it would work very good. In response, pest management companies like Clark Pest Control, a Rollins company in Lodi, California, have updated their rodent control protocols to stress IPM principles. This includes monitoring with non-toxic bait blocks and documenting rodent activity before toxic bait is used in stations. No kidding. So using proper IPM methods is helpful. Yeah, it is. We're trying to look at the whole picture, said Blair Smith, Clark's technical manager, solving the source of the problem, and no longer will we be always having an active in a bait station at a customer's home. Good on you, Clark Pest Control. Good on you, Blair Smith. That is the way to do it. That's great. I would say you're going to need to find a way in the next 5 years, 10 years, to completely eliminate rodenticide use. I mean, call me crazy, but I think in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we're going to see rodenticide be so strictly regulated that it's going to be nearly impossible to use in a safe manner without getting your business shut down. 53% of PMPs said that their rodent control service was just as dependent on rodenticide as it was 5 years ago. That is sad. 53%. And that's not even the most shocking, because I'm going to share some other stats later that are more depressing. And here's the first issue we come up across. Non-toxic rodent control methods, however, can't always deliver immediate knockdown like rodenticides, which when used prudently are important tools to reduce high rodent populations and blah, 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 blah. Non-toxic rodent control methods cannot always deliver immediate knockdown like rodenticides. Well, I mean, let's be real here. Rodenticides can't always offer immediate knockdown either. If the rodents don't go for your bait, you're not going to have immediate knockdown with your rodenticide either. It's all about controlling the environment. And traps do just as well as rodenticide if you're able to control food sources in and around the structure. If you have rodents in a crawl space, if you're able to seal up all the entry points, control their access to food and water, you will be able to trap out as efficiently and effectively as poisoning the heck out of the rodent. I would say with this caveat, it takes more labor. It costs more money. And that's what businesses don't like, right? And sorry guys, this is the real world that we're living in. You can't go like, hey, if you're sick, if you drink bleach, it'll probably make your sickness go away. Right? There's non-toxic things, but it can't always kill your sickness as fast as bleach can. But if you drink bleach, you're going to die. It's the same thing, guys. We're using these super toxic rodenticides instead of just bumping our prices up, learning how to properly trap and exclude structures, and going less toxic routes. There's ways you can do this that give immediate knockdown, just like rodenticides. Okay, don't even get me started. The right trap bait can also help, it says. Yeah, no kidding. Mix up your trap bait. And all right, so this is some of the interesting data. What's your location's primary product and service regimen for controlling rodents? Guess. I'll just give wild guess. Rodenticides, bait stations? Yeah, bait stations. 37%, up 1% over the last 5 years. Yes, love. What? Oh, thank you. Okay. It's time for lunch. So I'm just going to summarize this, but here's all the options. Bait stations, rodent exclusion, soft bait, snap traps, block bait, glue traps, multiple catch / curiosity traps, place packs, pellets, tracking powders, liquid bait, electric, and then fumigants. So to summarize this section, you have basically a 10% increase in chemical bait station poison rodenticide usage. 10% increase in that. And then a 6% decrease in traps and glue board usage. You also, the good news in this whole thing is that you do have a 4% increase in rodent exclusion as the primary product and service, and that rodent exclusion is listed as number 2 on there, but it's second to bait stations. So my recommendation is snap traps need to be at the very tippy top, and then exclusion should be right there, right below it, or maybe even reversed, and then other things below that. That's the perfect world that I would like to see. But again, also controlling rodents is fairly subjective. Are we controlling rodents on the exterior of a structure only? Are they infested inside of a structure? Is it a structure that you can actually exclude or not, right? There's all these different issues that you have to ask. But from what I've seen, you have many pest control companies are using rodenticide inside of structures without excluding them because they don't want rodents to die inside. They're not doing exclusion work, and then they're taking that same mindset and philosophy into the trapping realm, and they're saying, oh no, now you have to pre-bait or you have whatever. And all I'm saying is that if you do exclusion work, that solves about 95% of your problems. You properly exclude a structure, and then you use a good bait type, and you're going to have much higher success. Trend number 4, exclusion gains prominence. Yeah. That's great. Exclusion is really important. Average callback rate for rodent control services was 5.6%, found the PCT survey. That's interesting, 5.6%. I would guess it's actually much higher, but honestly, they probably are calling guys like me that do trapping and exclusion. But don't take my word for it. Change in dependence on rodenticides. So this is the number I wanted you to see. 53% said that they used the same dependence on rodenticides as 5 years ago. 53%, so over half of them. But then 22% said their dependence increased. 22% that said their dependence increased from 5 years ago on rodenticides. And that means 75% of participants, 75% said that they are dependent in the same manner or more as 5 years ago on rodenticides. You guys, this is crazy. I'm telling you, in 5 or 10 years, mark my words, there's going to be such crazy restrictions on this stuff. We have to figure out a way as a pest control industry to deal with rodents in a manner that doesn't involve poisoning the crap out of everything. Okay? And I'm not completely anti-poison. I think rodenticide use has its place, but primarily outside of structures. Don't do it inside of structures, and it needs to be really carefully, thoughtfully, wisely handled. But I was encouraged. The non-toxic rodent control products that are utilized the most frequently, which isn't a surprise, 83% said traps are the most, 75% said exclusion, and then glue boards, and then non-toxic bait was 22%, which is pretty interesting because we don't use a whole lot of no tox, just monitoring stuff. And then interesting stuff here. Have rodent populations become more visible in your market area as a result of less access to food, et cetera, because of COVID? 48% of people said yes, rodent populations have become more visible due to COVID. So lots and lots and lots of interesting stuff here. 57% of participants said that they have seen a significant change of rodent control, a change in significance of rodent control to their pest control industry, to the pest control business. And then, of course, it's sponsored by Bell, so they give you all of their nice Bell products. Now, I think it's cool what Bell's doing, and they've got the new IQ stuff. And what I'm asking is, why is that not being pushed at the forefront of everything? Trapping, exclusion, low toxicity baits, maybe even non-secondary poisoning baits, like Radix and that type of thing. Why are we not pushing this stuff? And I think, unfortunately, it comes down to two things. I think you got a lot of money coming from the big manufacturing companies, unfortunately. And that's going to happen in any sort of industry and anything. You've got a lot of big backers, a lot of money, a lot of advertisement getting pushed there. But also, I think it's a cost-saving thing from a business standpoint. They're trying to keep their costs low, their pricing low so that they can stay more competitive. And my fear is that a lot of companies are compromising and they're using products that are putting their customers, their techs, the people around them at a higher risk for minimal reward, except financially, except that they don't want to bump their price up so that they can pay the tech to go out there, 3 times for the traps instead of just once to poison everything. And that's real, okay? I'm all for, I run a small business, I'm all for keeping your costs low, but we have to have our priorities straight. I mean, profit is incidental, guys. Profit is incidental to loving your customers, loving your team, doing the right thing, come what may. And my concern in the industry is, and this is pretty broad spectrum, is that with the products we're using for insects and the products we're using for rodents, we're not putting our customers and our technicians first. We're putting the bottom line first when there's other products that can do very similar things with practically zero risk involved. So anyways, that's my rant. This is the 2021 State of the Rodent Market report. I keep wanting to say State of the Union, but that's the Automotive State of the Union. And yeah, interesting stuff. I hope that's helpful. Thanks for watching the Pestcast. If this has been helpful for you, leave us a like below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're trying to hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers by the end of the year 2022, which is this year. If you're listening after that point, then still subscribe because we still want that. Also, thanks for supporting the podcast. It's fun to do, and we try to help the pest control community. We want to discuss all things pest-related, business, marketing, sales, product reviews, content creation, leadership, all that sort of stuff. So tune in next time for the Pestcast. I'm your host, Gabe. Go out there and rock it.